Okay. Here, Mike, why don't you start it off there? The cover's a little creaky.
Yeah.
This is old. I got this from the library after it burned down, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is old stuff. There was once a bear in a forest. It's just yeah. It's one line per page.
Oh, it's a one line
per.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. This is annoying. The drawings are actually really good, I will say.
Unfortunately, this is an audio medium, so.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah,
all right.
I was holding it like a kindergarten teacher.
Let's get it clean. Let's get it clean.
Sorry. There was once a bear in a forest who went to look for some berries. Okay, Alex, you can take it from here.
Oh, thanks.
I'll hand it to you. Yeah, you can. Yeah, we'll just go around.
When he arrived at the berry bush, he was shocked to see that all the berries were already gone. Here you go, Adam.
He looked around. He looked down. He looked up and again around. Did anybody see who took the berries from this tree? Parentheses, I mean bush. He called.
Very specific. Interesting.
Who took the berries? He bellowed. The birds seemed very scared. They flew away.
Okay. I took the berries, said Horace the horse, chewing on some hay.
Horace, you bitch, said the bear.
Whoa!
Wow.
Hold on. Oh my God. When was
Let's
this?
teach kids swears.
This was, look at the front of the book. It says this came out right after Eminem burst onto the scene in a big way. So this is really responding to the cultural forces at the time. Let's clean it up. Let's clean it up. Horace, you unpleasant individual. How could you eat all the berries that I was going to use to make a pie for the village fair? That's in there too, that
Yeah, I'll say they leave all of that in there. Wow. I wanted a pie for myself, said Horace. I wanted to eat them all so that the humans couldn't have anything. Horace sucks.
Yeah.
he's kind of a, look, I hate to say it, and this was written in a different time, but he's kind of a
He is kind of a
Bear turned to Horace and said, I know how to settle this. A rap battle shall occur between you and I. Wow. They really are leaning into it.
They're really leaning into the...
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
They wanted
Okay.
8 Mile the Kids book, I guess.
So they went through the forest, skipping through the flowers, to 8 Mile, where a whole group of people were waiting to hear their rap battle. A mom was there. You know the rest. ... I mean, this, you almost need to have seen 8 Mile to, or at least know that song. I don't know.
No, the song. Are you talking about the song "Lose Yourself"? Because
Yeah.
I think that was what they were.
No, the song 8
referencing.
Mile.
The song 8 Mile by Eminem. Yeah. The mom served them her spaghetti.
There it is. Yeah, okay.
They just lay it out for you there. And Horace and Bear stopped rapping. They shared their meal and smiled. They were happy for the first time in a while.
Mm-hmm. And then Horace learned nothing. He returned to his house and ate the pie by himself. Jesus Christ.
Horace really sucks, man. Bear shared a whole meal with him.
He ate the whole pie, but suddenly felt uneasy. His eyes were leaking, his forehead sweating, and his stomach was queasy. He walked to the door, but just couldn't make it. He fell on the floor and started to shake it, parentheses, his body, I mean.
The paramedics arrived. Man, this goes into a lot of, I will say, I don't want to read all of this because they just go into a lot of detail about the medical state of this horse.
Yeah, this is turning into a medical drama.
3 or 4 pages. Horace awoke. He looked at the doctor. The doctor said, Those berries are for bears and not for horses. You shouldn't have eaten them.
All right.
I feel like we might have missed something in those
all right.
pages you skipped.
The
Sorry,
doctor-
I mean, there was a lot of like Grey's Anatomy like text there. They were bringing
And a
Yeah,
lot of
sorry.
Grey's Anatomy interpersonal drama as well. I think Horace and the bear were part of some sort of love shape, and maybe not a triangle, maybe a pentagon or something.
Well,
Oh.
Dr. McCarty did make an appearance in the 3 pages that I skipped, so you know.
The least
Well, this-
creative one.
This certainly takes a turn. The doctor continues. I'm sorry. This is just
Is it hard? It's
just
too much.
Is there a big word or something?
he says. The doctor continues. As recompense for your transgressions, I have broken your legs, and as you are a horse, you must now be put down.
Jesus.
I can't believe it. How'd that make it through?
We pan up, so now it's sort of taking like a script format. It says we
Yeah.
pan up from the OR into the little viewing area where all the people, there's just a line of jockeys weeping openly as the doctor takes out his shotgun. Doctor, you had this coming, Horace. You knew when you ate those berries that you were being kind of, and then ...
You're adding in the ... I'd
No,
imagine.
the ...
'Cause-
is there. It says
Oh.
stage direction too. It says remember to say ... out loud.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, this is like I have to say this is a bad book. At that moment, Bear burst in the door and pushed the shotgun away. He said, "Yeah, Horace." He has a lot of words here that I think that they probably took right from 8 Mile. I don't want to say it. There's a lot of 4-letter word. Anyway, he
Yeah.
says, "Yeah, Horace sucks." We'll go with that. But he's my friend. He ate my berries, but I still like him. We can't put him down. We can't do this to him. Put the gun away.
Horace comments, I've never seen this fucker in my life. Do it, you coward.
Holy
Bear, crestfallen, leaves the operating room, slams the door shut behind him. We hear a muffled gunshot.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
Bear breaks the fourth wall, looks towards the camera, and says, well, I guess Horace was the real Slim Shady.
But he could not stand up.
The end.
Yay! Oh, guys, we
You
should
know-
go into children's books writings. Our performance of that very real book was very good.
I gotta say, Alex, I want to make it kind of. We did a lot of censorship in that thing. We censored out bitch. We censored out like the big word phrases. Like epinephrine was in there in the few pages that I skipped over. And then you just went for it. You just went for the fucker, and I just,
Well,
I got to give you credit for that.
Well, what was I gonna do, Mike? It was emboldened and underlined.
I want to say, by what horrible god that the library burned down all of the classics, all of the great works, all of the theses, and
One
all
of a
this stuff
kind, yeah.
were destroyed, and this one book survived.
It's a
There
miracle.
is no justice in
Yeah.
this planet.
And it is hot when you touch it. It sort of burns your skin a little, doesn't it? Like,
No, it's like it's coated in charcoal. Like we can see the bear in the forest as the title, and everything else was. By the way, this wasn't even really about the bear. Like it became about him at the very end.
It was
Oh,
a medical
like-
drama
It was-
about a
it
horse.
was really
It was
more.
about a horse
in the
that sucks.
forest.
It was kind of a Grey's Anatomy meets Seabiscuit kind of thing, but yeah.
Someone definitely just generated the title after writing that book. By the way, that book is definitely not for kids, and neither is this podcast. Welcome back, everyone.
This is Everybody Loves Raymond. It's the only Everybody Loves Raymond podcast out there. As you can tell, that's what this show's about. We're going to be going through Season 2, Episode 8. What's that called again? Oh, the children's book.
Oh, what a
Isn't that
coincidence.
coincidence?
Oh, huh.
So
Who
we're going to
would've
be,
thought?
going scene by scene through that, talking about all of the details that anyone would ever want to or not really be interested in knowing. But first, as always, we are sitting here in the recreational vehicle, which is our RV/mobile studio, where we record the show. And I'm here with, my name's Adam Rooney, and I'm here with Alex Shear.
That's me.
And our good friend Mike E.
Hey, everybody.
And we like to kick off every episode by catching up with each other. We're just three guys trying to make our way in Lynbrook, New York, on Long Island. Doing a lot of resetting because I feel like we've been taking a lot of things for granted that people might be aware of, such as our relationship with O.J. Simpson and the large way that Billy Joel factors into our lives, and for the uninitiated, Mike,
We've had a lot of complicated history in these last couple
You
months.
can say that.
Mike, let's challenge ourselves to just sort of bullet point our thing before we catch up with each of us this week. Mike, why don't you just sort of encapsulate in as few words as possible your deal?
I'm not legally allowed to say everything.
You have 30 seconds. Ready, set, go.
Okay, so there was another hypothetical individual, might have been named something very similar, who in that alternate possible reality might have joined a Flat Earth group and then might have pissed them off because he played Around the World by Daft Punk and then got into hiding and then changed his name and then just decided to kind of hang out while he was figuring that out. That would be a separate individual from me, legally speaking, because if it wasn't, the Witness Protection Program will be very angry at that hypothetical individual. Okay, cool.
Okay,
nice.
Good. Yeah, no, that I think covers everything. I'm surprised they didn't give you like a backstory when they put you in your special arrangement where if somebody asked you to tell you about them.
They told me theoretically this hypothetical person, they told that person that their name was Microphone E and then kind of pushed them into the wild. That's kind of all that I was told.
Oh, and they gave you a check for $4.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I think that's it.
What's been going on? Last we heard from you, you were living with Alex, having sort of odd couple kind of relationship there, and you were going to help him recruit a campaign manager, I believe.
Yeah, tell him how that's been going, Mike.
Yeah, it's been going not great. I'm gonna be honest with you. We interviewed a lot of guys, and
just guys.
None of them really. Yeah, just guys. No, come on. What are we talking about here? Just guys.
Mike, tell him about the ice cream man with the saber-toothed tiger.
Oh my God, he almost got the job. He was freaking great. He came in here and he gave us both like chocolate fudgesicles. And he said, "Hey, you guys want to see my saber-toothed tiger?" And we were like, "Hell yeah." And for a split second, I thought, "Oh God, what if he isn't talking about a saber-toothed tiger?" But he opened the door and the saber-toothed tiger came in carrying more fudgesicles. And we were like, "Yo, this is awesome."
It was great.
But then we had to ask him about his policies, and he was very, very pro Impractical Jokers and wanted to rebuild the Joker's Tower to challenge God after he babbled the Jokers at the end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to turn him away, but we were so tempted to just change our politics.
My greatest fear is that my opponent Tyrone Dickey finds this man and hires him. Because he is that cool.
Then we're fucked. We're just fucked at that point. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had a new idea because I actually I started listening to the West Wing Weekly, not the show. I didn't start watching the West Wing. I started listening to the famous podcast, the West Wing Weekly, and I thought I found. I learned a lot of important information, but then I realized that Bradley Whitford has some more important things to do, and John Spencer has sadly passed away. So
you're gonna hire Bradley Whitford to be Alex's campaign manager for the mayoral race?
He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He does.
All right.
On the podcast anyway. And then I also found out that Will Bailey is a fictional person, so that also was a little upsetting.
For somebody who's never watched The West Wing, you've retained a lot of information about it, just character names and...
Listen, I've not watched the show. I've listened to a lot of The West Wing Weekly. That's all I got. This is going to be those name drops are going to be great for the 3 people that are really into 2000s political dramas, and they're going to be very excited, but everybody else not so much.
And it's definitely not anyone in this room.
I mean, I watched every episode of The West Wing, but I don't even remember any of the characters' names. I remember Jimmy Smits showing up in the later seasons, and the one guy went to jail at the end, but then he got pardoned by Martin Sheen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still on season 5 of the weekly one, so thanks for the spoiler, but good to know.
Somebody's going to jail. I gotta tell you, and it's not OJ.
Someone's going to jail. Someone's going to emergency was the name of one of the episodes. Sorry. Continue.
So where did that end up in terms of the search? You listened to the West Wing Weekly and took no
because
action
I was like, let's see if these guys know what they're talking about. And then I started calling the guests on the podcast. I called Bradley Whitford and found out that he's too busy doing Get Out 2.
Oh.
I called John Spencer.
Did he give you any details about Get Out 2 and what the script for that is going to be like?
No, he wasn't allowed to. In fact,
no spoilers. No spoilers.
In the background, I overheard Jordan Peele in the background screaming, "Get off the phone, Bradley! What the fuck are you doing?"
Wow, he took your call mid-scene. That's crazy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow,
if you watch Get Out 2.
And you think that Jordan's a one and done kind of guy. So if Bradley takes a call during the scene, he's going to have to use that take.
Yeah, absolutely.
Famously,
we'll if in Get Out 2, it's possible my call might have canceled the movie because Jordan might have been too upset with the lack of professionalism happening on set. But if the movie comes out and if Bradley Whitford's on the scene, on the phone in a scene, who's on the other line. But I called Bradley I called Bradley Whitford's people. I called John Spencer's people, who told me that unfortunately he's no longer with us. Mm-hmm. I called Will Bailey only to find out that he doesn't exist. And now
who did you call? Did you go through the phone book and?
I called it turns out there are a lot of Will Baileys in America. William Bailey seems like a pretty common name. Mm-hmm. I called each and every one of them and said, "Hi, have you worked in the past for President Bartlett?" And they said no. And so I gave up.
Wasn't his name Jebediah Bartlett? Is that right?
Yeah. His name was Josiah Bartlett.
Oh, Josiah.
He went by Jed. Yeah.
I have 2 questions for you. One, so did you use, because remember we had established previously, and Alex, I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this, that Limbrook got locked into an unfortunately long contract with the Yellow Pages, and so everybody gets the Yellow Pages and people build, because it's sort of like post-World War I Germany with the hyperinflation where people were wallpapering their houses with money. We pretty much... and it is sort of a sustainability thing that we can wear on our sleeve of, we've built several buildings, some of our infrastructure, like overpasses, out of the Yellow Pages because we just have so much of it. Alex, what is the plan, or your platform, I should say, regarding the Yellow Pages? Keep? Go?
Here's, Adam, I'm glad you brought this up because I've been thinking long and hard about this. And this is a true story, and I have to emphasize this. Mike can back me up on this because he's seen the inside of my studio at home. Yep. Mike, can you confirm that I ordered thousands and thousands of reams of white paper because I was sick and tired of getting, running out of computer paper when I needed it most?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So
no, it's literally lines his walls. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. But here's the thing, right? I accidentally, because I'm an idiot, when it comes to ordering things. I ordered blue paper instead of white. So it's useless to me now. But idea came. We had this yellow pages problem. No one likes yellow. But I got all this blue paper. We take one. We take the other. Green pages. Everyone's happy.
Huh.
I'm here for it.
I would be interested in writing on green paper. I'm wondering about the mechanics of it. How you take the yellow pages and the blue pages and merge them together into... Do you just, like, melt them down or something?
Well, no, you just mix them.
Yeah, but how?
Like
Sheets of
how you
paper.
mix yellow and blue. You make green. I don't understand the question.
Are you saying that you would mix a piece of yellow and a piece of blue and...
Yes, and that would make green.
No, but-
what do you... Adam, I don't... What? Come on, man. Makes sense. Did you go... Like, you know art.
I get that
Yellow and blue make green.
Are you saying that you will somehow combine the material of one blue piece of paper with the material of a yellow piece of paper, thus creating a green piece of paper? Or are you saying that you would stack the yellow and blue on top of each other such that looking at it from the side, it would appear green?
Adam, I think you're focusing on a non-issue. The point is we're going to take these yellow papers, we're going to take these blue papers, and we're going to make green papers, and it's going to be great for everyone involved.
Okay.
You know, green papers are like, it's, you could also make money from that, right? Like, money is on green paper. This is
yes.
This is an idea. We could fix the inflation crisis by
making more money.
I think that's how
it works, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The more money you have, the more you can afford to buy things, and then boom, everybody's happy.
So that's my plan. Please subscribe to this podcast. Adam, how's your life going?
It sounded like there was more to that sentence.
I just wanted to say,
go,
Alex. I was just gonna say, Alex. I mean, that was a good idea. I think I helped form it into something that could be a real campaign strategy. Why don't we just cut out the middleman? What if you just hire me to be your campaign manager? I need a job anyway.
Whoa,
He has
Mike,
Bradley Whitford's phone number, and he does pick up, so that's good for something.
I've listened to a lot of the West Wing Weekly, so I think I know a few things.
Wow,
and I've seen House of Cards.
You're certainly an excellent campaign manager. So maybe we just take out one of the managers and just make you the campaign manager.
I don't know if he's an excellent campaign manager based on the fact that he did not achieve the stated goal of finding you a campaign manager.
Well, no, he did. He just did.
Yeah, that's true.
I just did. And I also did get a saber-toothed tiger to bring us fudgesicles. Indirectly, but that did happen.
It was your fault. Not your fault. It was your doing in a way.
Yeah.
But it was nice. I'm here for it.
Well, this is
all
exciting.
Right, move for next week is we're gonna get the Green Pages inflation reduction plan out there to the public. This is gonna be great. Put it right next to your swole posters.
Everyone's gonna be swole and rich. That's your campaign promise.
That's what campaign.
Which is a great.
We're gonna make Lindbergh hot and rich again.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, the Green Pages thing. I think that could really get off the ground if you get the votes in Limbrook Parliament. You're going to have to convince some of the hardliners in there who've been saying, yellow pages all the way. We need to keep this contract with the yellow pages. People are going to come back around to the yellow pages. The yellow page caucus. So
I love the of course. We know that Lynbrook, New York, USA, famously bases its governmental system off of British Parliament. But yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, I can. We did have at the Chip Fest Anthony Weiner, who after all of his previous endeavors, he's now just a member of the Lynbrook Parliament at this point, and obviously he's in charge of the caucus.
Nice caucus.
Yeah, Weiner's. It used to be the Yellow Page Caucus, but now obviously everyone just calls it Weiner.
The Weiner Caucus.
Yeah, Weiner's Caucus. We have no claim to be any sort of meta or higher brow commentary or any never mind. Yeah, so Weiner's Caucus was there.
I mean, listen, listen, okay. Yeah, I'm glad he was at the Chip Fest because, listen, I know of all the controversies in the past, but I'll tell you what, since they took over, Weiner's Caucus has grown a lot.
Well, they've been running into some opposition with Weiner's Caucus.
Yes, Weiner's Caucus has grown and is smashing Weiner's Caucus.
Well, ever since Mario Batali went by the wayside, Weiner's Caucus has really been struggling. That's bad PR. Mario Batali used to wear Crocs all the time.
Is that true?
Yeah, no, that was sort of his signature thing was orange Crocs. Anyway, that's Weiner's Caucus.
You gotta love it. You gotta
love it.
Anyway, so I'm glad the Chip Fest went well. Did any other any other things happen?
Well, it was actually I cautiously would say that it was a total success. So as you know, we reserved Frank Barone Memorial Park in Limerick, and we surrounded it with a continuous submarine sandwich. What did it end up being? About a 60 square foot hero. And we had booths from Hers and Lay's and Utz and all the big players in the chip game. Kettle was there. And
Poker?
And whom?
Poker?
Well, that was the thing, is we had the poker booth where you could come up and play poker with chips. And we thought that was pretty cute. Until, I was not involved in this, but the guys that we hired from Empire City Casino, we had them come down from New Rochelle. They were a little aggressive when they discovered that somebody was carb counting, so they took him out back behind the park and broke his legs. But
just like Horace.
Yeah, just Horace in the story.
Yeah, maybe
comes around.
Maybe the book was just actually a threat to that guy. Maybe it wasn't actually a children's book. Anyway, so yeah.
So yeah, we had the poker chips, of course. We had our main stage, and we had OJ off to the side of the Hers tent in the Hertz booth, where he was running on a treadmill in front of a continuous background of an airport.
Yes, as we established, was the play.
Which was the hit of the fair, I have to say. People were lined up around the block.
I wasn't able to come, as that's why I'm asking about it. But I did notice.
What?
You can cut this out if this sucks.
No.
I did talk to a few people that did attend, and they were saying that there were a few things that OJ got off and started peddling his new business thing, which is he sells gloves, but they were sad because they didn't fit. They were a little too small.
Well, that's the joke. He's selling novelty gloves now where they don't fit.
Yeah. Where they don't
all
fit.
The sizes are one size off.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, let me get a small, and it's an extra small, and let me get a medium and a small, etc. So it's funny. And then he has like if you don't want to pony up for the actual glove, he did have a cardboard standee of him going like this, and the face is cut out, so it's like you can be OJ.
Yeah.
People
Everybody's
loved it.
Dream.
People in this town were so pro OJ. They came out big during the first trial, the second trial. They even came out for the memorabilia trial. They were all about OJ.
They even they called themselves Pro Jays, I think, right?
They were Pro Jays.
Yes, they were Pro Jays.
So yeah, he was a big hit. He was peddling his gloves. That was OJ's booth. And that was, that got the energy up in a big way at the start of the day. And then we had our main stage where we had a couple of local acts, and it was good. It got the energy up in a big way. It's a lot of classic rock cover bands. But also, in order to fit the theme, we had to. This was a hard Craigslist ad to put out because it was, we need classic rock cover bands, which we know is the number one live music in Limbrook, but they also need to be food-based. So obviously we got Bread Zeppelin. That was number one.
And we got Def Lincitart.
Well, we also, and that was a conflict because we had Def parentheses Rosted Leopard, defrosted leopard.
Yeah, there was,
so
yep.
We didn't want to put them back to back, but there was just no room in the lineup, so people got confused.
There was a little bit confusion there. Oh, don't forget about the AC/DC Caesar. They actually did a pretty good job.
They did too. They, back in Black Forest Ham is big for them. Obviously, we had Smash Mouth there, but we also had Smash Mouth, where the emphasis is more on the mouth than the smash, which is a food-based parody band of Smash Mouth. And Smash Mouth's performance went pretty well.
All things considered, I mean, like, there's Smash Mouth is can be a bit of a rough act.
They are surprisingly late 90s, early 2000s pop rock lounge fusion act. Smash Mouth is surprisingly aggressive towards their audience. And that was good. They got through Walking on the Sun, which of course Smash Mouth does as Walking on the Bun. They got through, what is another one of their songs? They got through Can't Get Enough of You, Baby, and of course Smash Mouth does that as Can't Get Enough of Your Gravy. This is not hard, Weird Al. This is... So, yeah, they did those songs, and everything was going great until All Star. And Smash Mouth had done a great job with All Char, which is, their version about it. It's about when you overcook a steak or something. They killed, I have to say. People were so thrilled to see Smash Mouth. And then Smash Mouth showed up. They did their versions of all of those songs, so it was a little repetitive. Because they don't have a ton. They did their weird cover of Under Pressure by Queen that was in the movie Zoom Academy for Superheroes starring Tim Allen, where he, instead of, how the rhythm of that song is usually Freddie Mercury says, "No man ask for." In that version, Smash Mouth says, "No man ask for." Like, he really drags out that middle syllable, and it's very odd. And so he did that, and I had asked him not to do that before the show backstage, and he pointedly looked at me when he did that, as if to say, fuck you, I'm going to do it the way that I did it on the soundtrack of the movie Zoom Academy for Superheroes starring Tim Allen. And I said, all right. But that was like the first indication that things were not going to go well. From that point, because All Star starts and it's all going great, but of course we had handed out those instructions about how to throw a chip like a frisbee to get it on stage, throw it at him, in a reminiscence of the bread incident where Smash Mouth freaked out because people were throwing bread at them on the stage and he almost killed somebody.
I remember that.
Yeah, so needless to say, the chips start flying, the uts, the hers, the lays. They're going everywhere. I have to say, I condemn the hospitalization of most of the members of Smash Mouth with pepper cuts from the salt and pepper chips that they were throwing. Uts, salt and pepper, it's real. So I do disavow that. However, I will say that the lead singer of Smash Mouth did deserve it when he went around going through the crowd once this started happening, grabbing people's unopened chip bags and doing that thing where you gather all the air at the bottom and then you slap it. Did that in a lot of people's faces, and it was very rude.
Yeah, that's not cool.
That doesn't sound nice.
Needless to say, I mean, it all pretty much broke down from there, and this was 6:55 p.m. Julius Pringle, who was our keynote speaker, was supposed to go on at 7, so it really brought the room down, but...
Yeah, and we couldn't we couldn't keep it. I heard you didn't even get to hear the food fighters at the end of everything.
And that was going to be our big close. Is we were going to have them at the very end of the show. Because we had Julius Pringle coming. He was going to do a little performance with Billy Joel. He was going to come out, do a song that would change the way that you thought about chips for the rest of your life. And it was sort of going to be the start of the next big era in chips. And this was, we made a lot of promises here, but we thought that was going to be great. And then they would be like, all right, everybody, now's the time. You've heard our presentation. Please welcome Dave Grohl and the Food Fighters. And then we just didn't get there. We didn't have time
because Julius Pringle didn't get to sing Uptown Grilled, which is their new brand of new flavor for chips.
So what happened was he gave his speech, and it was really inspiring. He talked about how the chip industry has gotten a bad name for too long. Pringles is going to be introducing the next big innovation in chips, which is instead of the tube, it's going to be a flat 2x4 like plank where each of the chips is on the same plane instead of stacked on top of each other. And people lost their shit. They thought this was great. And so he starts going into the Downeaster pizza, and people are thrilled. They're like, this is great. He does it. He nails it. Billy is, like, this is the best concert I've ever had. This is so much better than every time I've been at Madison Square Garden. They start doing all the hits. They do Say Goodbye to Barbecue. They do The River of Creams, parentheses sour. Scenes from an Italian ranch-restaurant. This one's a bit of a stretch. Only the Good Onion.
Oh.
And finally, they're about to do their parody of I Go to Extremes, which is called I Go Sour Cream. And he does, that song starts out with 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at that point, when he says 4, a chip is thrown from the audience and slices him across the jugular, killing Julius Pringle in front of everybody.
Holy fuck.
Jesus
it was
Christ.
horrific, and people were freaking out. It had real RFK energy. Kentucky Fried Chicken. That doesn't even make sense, because then chicken would have to be spelled KHIC. But we were all looking around, and it was Steve Harwell, the lead singer of Smash Mouth, had thrown the chip. And needless to say, the Limbrook PD immediately gunned him down, and it was horrible.
How did I not hear about this?
Well, we did a pretty good. Pastrami and I, former father of the Catholic Church, John Pastrami and I, we paid off a lot of people. And one of those people that we paid off, Alex, was your opponent, Tyrone Dickey, who
Holy
promised that if we gave him all of the proceeds from the Chip Fest, he would not sling your association with me as the organizer of this tragic event as mud in the campaign. So you're welcome. However,
that's one of the darkest political cover-ups I've ever heard. Holy
that
dude,
is Mike.
Dude, the fucking Smash Mouth singer assassinated what was the dude's name? Mr.
Julius
Pringle? He assassinated Julius Pringle in front of everybody with a fucking boomerang potato chip. This is huge.
Well, you felt like I glossed over that a little bit.
No, I don't think you did. I think the fact that you paid off the news to not cover that is a little bit shitty. I'm not going to lie.
And then actively admitting that on our podcast.
Well, I'll edit this out if I have time, but what you need to know, so I did this for you, first of all. You're welcome.
And I appreciate that. I really do. I didn't ask you to do that. And I can fight my own battles, but it's whatever. You did it, and I appreciate it.
I had made back the money that we sold from the Barone Zone, that we got for selling the Barone Zone from this Chip Fest, but I had to give it all to Tyrone Dickey and the media to sweep this under the rug. So I'm back to square one. Also, your opponent now has a much larger budget than he had before. So just be aware of that. And
That's a little concerning.
because of the way that this situation is playing out, our good friend Billy is sort of wanted for the murder of Julius Pringle and Steve Smashmouth Harwell.
Sort of.
So I did betray him. I betrayed him in a big way. I fell in with the police and the media, and I betrayed Billy.
I'm just gonna put it out there, Alex. Adam should be your campaign manager. You need to have cutthroat skills like that in order
Hey,
to make
come
this
on,
work.
too soon.
It is, Mike. It's too late. We already signed the contract, so we legally cannot change it. Otherwise, that would be scrutinous in its own right, and then we lose the campaign immediately because of that shift. So, Adam, if you want to be royal advisor to the campaign manager, you're more than welcome to do so. Mike, if you'd have him.
I think
we can have a ceremony later today.
I'm gonna say, listen, Adam, you're a friend. You know this. This is some shady bullshit you just announced. Very questionable morals here.
It was a high intensity, high stakes situation, and to be honest, I was just going along with what Pastrami was saying, and the more he talks about this stuff,
you should trust a Catholic priest saying.
Well, I have some bad news for you if that's how you feel, because the way he was talking about this stuff, and he was talking about, things need to change in this town, and he sort of offered me, I'm going to have to turn down your job, Alex, because he sort of offered me a position on his campaign for mayor.
You joined the light side?
The light side of the menu at the deli where, we only use turkey. Is that a good segue? He is announcing his campaign for mayor based on what the media has reported as an extremely successful chip fest. And in order for me to keep my dumpster privileges and, still have a place to park this thing, I gotta be his campaign manager. No hard feelings, nothing personal, but this is just where we are.
I have some hard feelings about it.
On our Everybody Loves Raymond podcast, you are now taking the anti-Everybody Loves Raymond stance?
No. See, that's the great thing about Strami's campaign is that he is neutral on Raymond. He's neither pro nor anti. In fact, he thinks that we should build a rotunda in City Hall with all of the sitcom greats. Danny Tanner, Uncle Phil, Ray Romano.
Why would we do it? Why would we why would we have a monument to Danny Tanner when he lives in San Francisco canonically, whereas Raymond is from Lynbrook? We should have a rotunda specifically for Marie and Ray and Frank and all of them.
And look, he's willing to compromise on this. He's already been in talks with Weiner's Caucus. He's gotten their endorsement. So, he's gotten their engorgement.
All right. Well, Adam, with all due respect, I hope you fucking eat shit in the election.
Well, let's just keep this as a friendly competition between friends, and then when it's all over, nothing's different.
It's not about friends. It's not about friends.
Well, no, the friends will be in
town.
the rotunda. It is about friends.
Oh my God, get them out of there.
Chandler,
they don't count in the
Jerry,
same level.
Kramer, Monica.
Monica?
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry and Kramer weren't even... Oh my God. All right.
Well, look.
We're going to argue about this on the break, but I think we got to go to commercial for now.
I think we do. All right.
I agree.
We'll be right back with our breakdown of Season 2, Episode 8 of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's called The Children's Book, and we'll be talking about it right after this. Location, private jet.
You got to do the ad.
Action, private jet is the suggestion, and go.
Attention passengers of the cabin. We are approaching our descent into Chicago O'Hare Airport. Please fasten your seatbelts as we approach the ground.
Excuse me, do you have an extra pair of headphones on for the flight down, for the descent? I seem to have misplaced mine in my hold luggage.
Well, I mean, we're beginning our final descent. I don't know what's so important that you would need headphones for the last 20 minutes. What can not wait that long?
Well, funny you should ask, because I'm actually listening to the bonus feed of my favorite podcast, Everybody Loves Raymond. It's called the Baroness Zonus, and, well, their latest Baroness episode is the exact length of time it's going to take for this descent, so I figured why not enjoy this last 20 minutes of the flight with a monthly bonus episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.
Huh. Wow. What is it about? Like, how can I go about listening to such an interesting sounding thing there, son?
Well, Dad, as a passenger on this private jet, I assume you're a man of means, and you could pay upwards of $100, $200, $300, or $400 a month for access to such a feed. But in fact, even the poor people on the ground, they can get access to monthly bonus episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond for a price of their choosing. If you have $1 and you want to pay one time for lifetime access to bonus episodes of this show, that's all it takes. There's no recurring subscription necessary. It's entirely up to you.
Holy crap, Junior. I can't believe that.
Believe it, Senior.
I did have a set of headphones, but, you sold it too well. I'm afraid I'm going to need these headphones so I can listen to the Baroness Sonus.
Hey.
Attention, passengers of the cabin. A new Baroness episode just dropped on the Baroness Zonus. We're going to listen to it right now. I'm going to play through the speakers because this is the tightest shit I've ever heard.
Holy shit, what a lucky day. Kenny, I can't believe it.
Oh my god, a goose just flew into the engine. Oh god. We're gonna have to...
Better play one of the shorter ones.
Captain, what's your name?
Don't you worry, son. I'm Sully Sullenberger.
Woohoo!
Holy crap! Woo!
We're gonna land this plane while listening to the Baroness Zonus.
Wow, Sully loves the Baroness Zonus too.
Everybody Loves Raymond would like to clarify, we have not consulted Sully Sullenberger for the purposes of this commercial. Again, this podcast is not endorsed by Sully Sullenberger.
I know your name is Sully Sullenberger, Captain, but how is it spelled for libel purposes?
It's spelled S-U-L-I-L, the last L is silent, Sullenberger. Z-U-L-Y-X-W-P, the number 4, a Batman symbol, a burger emoji. But it's pronounced Sully Sullenberger.
And how? Welcome back to Everybody Loves Raymond. It's time to go through Season 2, Episode 8. It's called The Children's Book. My name's Adam Rudy. I'm here with Alex Shear.
Alex Shear. I'm the guy who keeps interrupting
The Human Echo. Alex
The
Shear.
Human Echo. Alex Shear.
And the Human Microphone. Mike E. is here as well. How are you, Michael?
Hello.
I mean, microphone.
I'm doing good. I'm willing to set aside our differences for the purposes of today's podcast.
Let's keep it professional.
You're going to fucking die.
That's my campaign manager right there.
Speaking of professional, what is your professional opinion, overall impression of Season 2, Episode 8? Fellas, let's start with Alex.
Cool. You know what? I thought this one was very interesting. And it kind of reminded me that, like, there are definitely episodes that, like, I feel that Ray is not always in the wrong. And I feel like there were definitely parts of this episode that Ray kind of, even if he didn't do the right thing, he kind of had the right frame of reference. And Deborah was being a little unreasonable because of how insecure she was feeling. And I thought it was very, it wasn't just black and white. There's a lot of gray area in kind of the conflicts this week. And I thought it was just a really cool idea and kind of and maybe a little bit of the writers patting themselves on the back, kind of showing the audience how hard it is to write things.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was a good one. Probably one of my favorites of season 2 so far.
Awesome. Mike, what is your overall impression of the episode?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good one. I thought it, thought it was a good episode. We got to see a good old domestic dispute between Ray and Deborah, and Ray trying to make Deborah feel better and going sideways all over the place. But yeah, I thought it was a fine episode. It was not one of my favorites, but I still enjoyed it a lot.
I felt like.
And now, how about you, Adam?
I felt like it was a really strong, example of let's explore an aspect of a married couple's relationship. What if we have to have Ray and Deborah collaborate on something creative like this? Is a really strong starting point. I don't remember if they do something like this again. Like, do Ray and Deborah have to, design costumes for Allie's school play or something? Or do they have to, make a video or something? But I think that's a good starting point to see the way that their personalities clash, because at this point we are really familiar with Ray and Deborah's personalities, and sort of the things that they clash about in this episode are things that I feel like they have clashed about before, like Ray sort of seeming to not work very hard, or Deborah doing a lot of work that Ray doesn't appreciate at home or doesn't, recognize as hard work as it actually is. So I thought that was an interesting place to start from. And then a lot of the comedy, the physical comedy from Patricia Heaton was really good in this episode. And then also the family, the Barones, had some really great scenes in this one. So I really enjoyed it. But let's...
I agree with that, Adam.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. But let's start going scene by scene through this episode. Let's start with our cold open. It's Deborah. She's coming down into the living room. Ray is on the couch. Deborah's complaining about having read the same book again for the kids. And Ray's on the couch. She asks him if he's finished cleaning up the kitchen already. And Ray's like, well, and Marie enters, and it turns out that Marie came over and did it for him. Deborah wants to tell her to stop, but Ray says, don't take away her reason to live. And then Deborah says, that's supposed to stop me, which is a good rejoinder to that.
Dark. Yeah, dark.
Very, cutting, I feel like, for Marie, that Ray, and I think this is accurate based on everything we've seen of Marie, that Ray recognizes that her sort of overbearingness is not, just a surface, I want to clean this up for you. It is, I need to intervene in your life to make sure that things are up to my standard. It's almost compulsive for her. So I think that's sort of the subtext of that line. And then obviously Deborah's response of I don't fucking care. Get her out of my kitchen is a funny rejoinder to that. But we go from there to our anti-gravity opening, and then we cut to the living room, same scene, and we cover that Deborah is sick of reading the same stories every night for the past 5 years for the kids. Reference, Ray says, what do you want to read to the kids? Jackie Collins. Jackie Collins. Mike, do you know who this is?
No, I don't, but I find it really, really funny that this one throwaway line that in my mind was just kind of I don't know, whatever. I didn't really think twice about it. I just didn't laugh. And I can tell automatically that you went on a deep dive into this. I did not go on this individual
deep dive on Jackie Collins. I did go on far too deep a dive on something that comes up later, but Jackie Collins was an English romance novelist and actress. She's the younger sister of Dame Joan Collins. So romance novels, you can picture that, like a shirtless Fabio type guy on the front, and it's very steamy. Some of
it's
her
one of those. Okay.
Some of her books are The World is Full of Married Men from 1968, and then the follow-up, I presume, The World is Full of Divorced Women in 1975. In 1979, she has a book called The Bitch, and then in 2009...
Jeez, we should introduce her to Horace.
In 2009, she has a book called Poor Little Bitch Girl. So,
jeez,
we should read that.
Wait. Let's clean some of the soot off of The Bear and the... Oh my God, it's Jackie Collins. Wow,
I'm
that
not
explains
surprised.
a lot.
Appropriate. I will say it's good for her to take a dip into children's books because it sounds like from what you said, she wrote a lot of like the steamy stuff that like you'll see on like a grocery store counter on your.
Yeah, she's very much a grocery store book person. She has the Hollywood series of Hollywood Wives, Husbands, Kids, Wives, The New Generation. That's stupid. And Hollywood Divorcees. So yeah, she's written a lot of books and has been, she's sold more than 500 million copies. So more successful than most, and definitely more successful than Ray as a writer. So shut up, Ray. They should read Jackie Collins. She sounds amazing. Anyway.
She sounds like a good person, yeah.
Yeah, no, she's very successful.
Let's get her on the podcast.
Yeah.
Based on this tenuous connection of you were
The
mentioned
only
once.
thing we're going to ask her one question only, and that question will be, what are your feelings about being mentioned in a throwaway joke on Everybody Loves Raymond at one time?
Well, we'll send an email, and if we hear back, I'll put it here. And if you didn't hear anything, I either didn't send the email or didn't hear back. So yeah, that's Jackie Collins. Deborah suggests that she could write a children's book because these things are so, basic, and she's so tired of them. She thinks she could do a better job. At that point, Frank comes out of the kitchen. This is like every time that the family shows up and has just a weird, funny little, very specific scene. This is what I liked about that in this episode. Frank comes out of the kitchen holding a Tupperware of pasta, which is clearly melted, and says, "Is this container microwavable?" And Deborah says no, and Marie calls from the kitchen, "I told you that's not the sauce. You're eating melted plastic."
God, I love the visual gags on this show.
And
they're just so good.
You gotta wonder what's like. I would love to see a doctor's appointment for Frank. He's like, well, everything tastes better with cheese. Like, what the fuck?
He then proceeds after learning it's melted plastic. He then proceeds to take another forkful of whatever was in the Tupperware as he walks off screen. He
must be indestructible. His bowel movements must be insane. Ray tells Deborah that if she needs any help with the children's book to let him know, and that obviously makes Deborah excited to do it together, but Ray immediately walks it back because he didn't really mean that, and he
was just trying to get her to leave him alone so we could read his magazine.
Yeah, or just sort of superficially support her. He says, no. Classic Ray whine. He doesn't want to help her because writing is what he does for a living, so he doesn't want to come home and then write.
Can I say that I kind of relate to that in a little bit?
Yeah.
That's like almost a good point. Yeah.
I'm not a writer, but I am an artist.
Yes.
And I have a job that involves me doing a lot of art all day, every day. And it's so freaking hard to come home and to do it for myself. And it's like in that moment, like what Ray said is just like, oh my God, it's like he's speaking to me. Finally, I, the straight white man, can feel a connection with someone on TV.
At long last.
Yes.
At long
Finally,
last,
we got
you
someone.
have something
It's
in
about
common
time.
with Ray Barone.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that. I think the way that he's whining about it is sort of undercuts his valid point a little bit, but that's typical for Ray.
A little much, yeah.
It's sort of like anytime Ray has a good point, you almost don't want to give it to him because he's being so childish about it. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think there's something to that beyond just he doesn't want to help her. I think you're right.
Yeah, there's something very valid there. I agree.
But Deborah...
He did not communicate that well, though.
And
that I do want to share.
I think that's
Well, he never communicates well. I think that's like his main character trait.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean we
communicate well.
But it doesn't mean we should stop bringing it up.
Yeah, it's true. We should call it
Yeah, I
out
guess
when
so.
we see it.
It's every episode. Every episode Ray does something bad with communication.
We should just say, the root of the problem in this episode is that Ray does not communicate with his wife. And if we need to just record that once and then plug it into every...
I actually don't know if I agree that it's the root of the issue with this one, but it does hurt things a lot. I do agree with that.
I agree. This is kind of a damned from the start type of feeling for me.
Yeah,
where like just the creative differences between them were never gonna make this end well.
Well,
and just the way Ray kicking and screaming the whole way just made things a little tougher.
it reminds me of... from the communication point, it reminds me of the last episode that we watched, Working Late Again, where Ray never really says, actually, I don't want to work from home. And then it also reminded me of Standard Deviation, Season 1, Episode 4, because it becomes this competition between them. And that's not a, constructive impulse for solving a disagreement, really. So I think there's a combination of a lot of bad habits that we've seen Ray and Deborah have before that are causing this problem, which is good. This episode was actually written by Steve Scroven, who was on our show for season 1, episode 18.
That's our boy.
That's our boy.
I'm sure he loves I'm sure he would love it if he knew I referred to him in that way.
Calling him. Yeah. He heard us calling him as our boy. Yeah.
The Steve signal. He wrote this episode, and I think it shows, the grasp of character that the writers have at this point for Ray and Deborah, and sort of the way that their relationship functions. I think this is why people really, or one of the reasons people really like this show, is because there is that continuity. It's not, their conflicts are not arbitrary. You can see how these people would get to that disagreement. So that's, but Deborah tries to convince him to help. She says he's such a good writer, she could really use his help. And Ray responds to that with, don't start talking like that unless you're willing to back it up with sex.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, but it's a funny line.
It is.
It's even funnier as the assist to the following line where Marie and Frank enter, and Marie's just like, don't talk about sex, we're here. But Ray...
That's a fair point. If your parents are nearby, probably not the best time to joke about sex.
Or to,
Yes, but also she wasn't invited, so I don't know.
It's if it's a negotiation about sex, which if you took it as not a joke, then maybe you don't want to do that in front of Marie and Frank.
Right.
But anyway, Ray tells them that Deborah's thinking of writing a book, and Frank says, a sex book? No, it's a children's book. Marie pounces on this, and she has a wonderful story for her about Robert in Little League. She asked him before the game if he had to go to the bathroom, and he said he didn't, but then he went up to bat and wet his pants while at bat, which makes everybody laugh. And then we get Robert entering, and they abruptly stop. Best use, I think, so far of his catchphrase, "Is this about me?"
Because it is.
Yes. So it's not paranoia, it's justified for Robert. But I wanted to ask, because I know, Mike, you did Little League, and Alex, you did Little League briefly or for the same amount of time as Mike. But
it's a long story, but yeah.
Yeah. Did either of you ever
I think I
have
did 2 or 3 years.
An absolutely mortifying experience at bat?
Mike, you go first. I have a lot to say about this.
Oh my God! If you do, I forgot this incident, so I'm very happy that I'm going to hear it again. I was bad at baseball, so I loved playing it, but let's be clear, I was very, very bad. So it was embarrassing for me to strike out every time I got up, but that's clearly
a different level.
Different. Yeah. It's you hit like it was embarrassing enough to actively hear the other coaches pointing at me in left field and saying hit it at that guy. But other than that, like that's just kind of a kid sucking at a sport. There's a difference between that and pissing your pants. Yeah, I think that would be the only thing. Yeah. Alex, did you piss your pants and I forgot about it?
No,
I'm never
not
gonna
that
let you live it down again.
No, I didn't. And I wasn't referring to any specific scenario with me, but it's kind of the same thing, just different problem, where my entire Little League career was plagued with a sincere horror of getting hit in the face by a baseball.
Oh, no.
And although I could hit, and I feel like I could hit pretty well, I legitimately was too scared to actively try and hit the ball. And so my years of Little League were just like me just being really, really scared and uncomfortable.
Oh, that's
unreasonably so, because, you know, like, I mean, basically it hurt, but, you know, it's not going to kill you.
yeah.
So that was my experience, and it was a unpleasant one. But I mean, not the end of the world. And I'm so glad I did it, because I have some good memories with Little League.
That's where you met Mike, when he was pitching to you and your eyes met across the mound and you were like telepathically communicating or non-verbally communicating, hey, 15 years from now, do you want to start an Everybody Loves Raymond podcast?
And then we had to wait until we met a third guy who knew how to edit.
Yeah, I remember that meeting very well because I was on the mound and I saw this kid and I was like, this guy looks scared. I'm going to try to hit him. And I threw the ball at his head, but I was so bad at pitching that I actually threw a strike for the first time in my baseball career.
Memories.
Yeah, we balance each other out.
Yeah.
They tell, they, being Marie and Frank, tell Robert that they're giving Deborah the Little League story for her book, and Robert's alarm at this is so, well, I mean, such great emoting from
awesome.
Brad Garrett. He's alarmed that it would be in a book. He says, I have the rights to that story. Deborah says she's not going to use it.
Is that how that works? Do you have the rights to your livelihood? No?
No, that's not how it works. You have to trademark
not
stuff.
unless you are writing a book of somebody's life story. Like, you can't, she couldn't say this is the story of Robert Barone, you know, wetting himself at Little League. She could write a story about, you know, Raymond wetting himself at Little League, which was the pseudonym that Frank used for Ray in his Reader's Digest articles. So she could do that. She could say it was inspired by a true event, and not have to pay him for the rights. But
cool.
Yeah. But Deborah says she's not going to use it, so that doesn't matter. But Marie protests. She calls it an important story with an important message about listening to your mother and not holding it in. And at that point, Frank offers to do the pictures, which pays off way later in the episode. But he says, I've painted some bullfighters. Some nudes. And Marie says...
He says nudes really funny.
He does, yeah.
It's nudes.
He's like, he does like a weird hand gesture too. It's a little strange.
Art.
Yeah.
Marie says you painted naked ladies off of a deck of dirty cards. And Frank says, that's because after Robert was born, you stopped posing for me. Which obviously mortifies Ray and Robert. Ray wants to gouge out his eyes, and Robert says, you can't gouge out your mind's eye, which is very dark.
It's true, though.
Have either of you ever seen, this feels like a very, like, 70s thing, like, certainly pre-internet, of, like, playing cards with pornography on them?
Sadly, no.
No, me neither.
I have not. Sadly, I have.
Unfortunately,
I've never.
no.
I don't. I have never seen it, and I don't think I want to.
It's probably a good thing they're not around anymore, because, you know, playing cards should be for everyone and not just for the horny.
Yes.
Right.
And that's our message on this show. Robert suggests that Deborah could write about a tall crime fighter, and Ray says, does he live with his parents? I thought Robert's delivery of could was pretty funny. Marie's about to
Yeah, it was,
offer
yeah.
another story about Robert wetting himself on a long car trip, but Ray interjects and he steps up, says, "I'm going to help Deborah. Don't worry. Please get out," essentially. And so, sorry. We cut to Deborah and Ray going down into the office. Deborah's very excited, and I think this is a nice thing that we're seeing at the outset here. Regardless of how Ray actually feels about it, Deborah's excited to create something with him, which is very sweet. But they fire up the computer, and Ray says he has to play a little Galactic Defender before writing as part of his process, part of his getting ready.
He's got a whole controller for it, too.
Yeah, he's got a
I thought was
joystick. Deborah, is eager to get started, but Ray takes out his little stress guy, his squeezy stress doll guy, and he says he has to squeeze it 12 times. So, obviously... Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably on everybody's mind, but when I heard this, the first thing that I thought was like shades of Robert.
Yeah,
or
for
like
sure.
the Barone boys are like, yeah, it's a genetic thing, apparently.
I wonder.
Yeah.
So they start working on the book. Deborah's idea is she asks Ray, "Do you remember that time that Allie wanted to run away from home and they let her pack a suitcase and she was taking each thing and talking about where she got it and who gave it to her, and as she was packing, and then by the time she was done, she forgot that she wanted to run away from home." And Ray likes this idea a lot, and then he immediately gets up to go to the bathroom.
For the record, sorry, I was just going to say, I also think this is a great idea for a kid's book.
I think it is too.
Yeah, definitely. That's absolutely like a legitimately good idea, and it could have been a good book.
I thought it was going to be corny and stupid, but that works.
If this show was, licensed the shit out of every inch of its intellectual property the way that Friends or Seinfeld ended up doing, that book would have been on shelves for sure, but for some
100%,
reason this show never did anything like that as far as I know. I mean, all I know that this show did is the complete series box set is in the shape of a house. That's all that I know about.
And that is cool.
I actually didn't know that. That is kind of fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, they get this good idea, and then Ray immediately gets up to go to the bathroom because he says that's what he does when he has a good idea. Again, his process is very idiosyncratic. It's not, it's less about, environment and more about these routines. It's very interesting.
Like imagine every time you got a good idea, you then had to go to the bathroom.
Well, maybe
I would have never gone to the bathroom once.
Yeah, in fairness to Ray, how often do we think he gets a good idea that this...
Yeah, maybe he really maybe he holds it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why his mom wants Deborah to write a book about how not to hold it in, so Ray will stop this madness.
Raymond.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll find out in a later episode how Ray handles his bathroom business. So Deborah wants the character in the story to be a bunny, and Ray is sort of like, that's been done. Ray wants a dinosaur. Deborah finds that trendy, and Ray says the bunny is hack. And Deborah says it's, she lays her foot down because it's her idea. She says it's going to be a bunny. And Ray throws his hands up and says, then take my name off of it. Which is already we're coming in hot, right? This conflict, first difference of opinion that they have there. Ray is freaking out. They're arguing, and Ray brings up, and this is, something we've seen before of Ray bringing up, my work, this is my work, I'm a writer, my work supports this household. And Deborah says, well, what I do doesn't, my work doesn't, her unpaid labor,
That's pretty antagonistic, I thought.
Who?
Well, I think both, but I think Deborah, accelerated the situation by assuming that was what Ray was insinuating, when I think that's not what he was doing.
I think Ray was... it's Yeah, I don't know exactly where it starts. I don't think it's too much. I think bringing up the money aspect is a little antagonistic from Ray, certainly.
You know what?
That's
That
what I
is
was
fair.
that's what I was gonna say. I mean, like, I don't think Ray was intentionally saying, Deborah, you do nothing. I don't think that was his intention, but he was definitely pulling rank on his wife, and I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
that's
a
a completely innocent thing to do.
That's a good phrase to encapsulate it. He was definitely pulling rank of, I'm a professional writer. And then as an extension of that, saying, that supports this household. So I think it's more maybe he's justified in saying the first thing. It's the second part that is like, okay, you didn't need to do that. That's a little aggressive.
Right.
You know what? I will change my stance at this new information.
Well, that's very conciliatory. But I don't think you're entirely
you.
wrong. I think the ramp up here is pretty severe from it should be a bunny, no, it should be a dinosaur, to the central argument of women don't get paid for their labor in the household, and but we cut to from there, so they are mad at each other. We cut to Deborah writing in the kitchen as Ray comes home. She's clearly, frustrated, hitting a bit of a wall. Ray's like, oh, you're working on your thing? I was wondering, are we still fighting? And she says, no, we're not still fighting. Shut up, Ray. And he says, oh, good, I almost bought flowers, which is classic Ray.
Classic
reactionary posture. He goes into the kitchen and takes out, or the refrigerator, and takes out a Canada Dry mini bottle. A couple bucks there from our good friends at Canada Dry.
Canada Dry.
I like that it was a bottle instead of a can, changing it up a little bit.
I think they use every permutation of Canada Dry that you can. The mini can wasn't along yet, but the mini bottle, the 2-liter bottle, the full can, they're really showing off the product line. But Deborah is getting frustrated. She tears the paper out of her notebook, crumples it, beats the shit out of the notebook. She's stomping on it and throwing it across the kitchen. I thought her, throughout the rest of this scene, her physicality is really funny. Ray is trying to, support her. He's, trying to sort of calm her down. Deborah's still pissed off. She then goes on to say, I don't know how you do this every day with the writing. It's hell. And then Ray, you see that little switch in Ray, and it's like, oh, I can get some sympathy from my wife here. I'm going to manipulate her a little bit. It's like, oh, It's not all hanging out at the games with the guys and the hot dogs and the make your own sundaes. But Deborah, she's done, and she walks out, and Ray starts, waxing. I remember when I was just a beat writer covering the local high school games, and as he's reminiscing, Deborah walks out behind him. I was a diamond in the rough, really, and he's continuing, and he looks around, he realizes Deborah's gone, and then he picks up her notebook from the floor and goes, he sort of has a, excited or inspired face. He goes down to the office with it. We cut to Ray at the computer with the notebook, and he's typing, and he's flipping through the notebook, looking at Deborah's ideas, and he has to embody the bunny and do a few hops as part of his process.
I thought that it was so first of all, I thought at first I was like, oh, this is a cute idea. He wants to put Deborah's work together. I also immediately saw this is going to blow up in his face. This is going to backfire immediately.
Because it wasn't Ray. It wasn't Ray fucking doing kind of rebuilding kind of her thoughts. It was really just him not reorganizing. It's just him doing it for her. And that's a mistake that I make a lot, where it's I it starts off as wanting to be nice and helping, and then I end up doing the entire thing.
Yeah.
I was just going to say this entire thing is very relatable from Ray's perspective, even down to the coming in just like, hey, are we still fighting? I felt like that was very, very funny. I felt that felt kind of real.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say the a common like relationship issue and something that I've had to learn, and I think everybody learns, is nobody wants you to solve their problems. If anything, they just want you to be sympathetic to them and listen to them and not take the notebook and write the story for them. But also, the goal that Deborah was trying to achieve was not, I want a children's book to be written from this story. It was, I want to do the creative work of writing this children's book. So Ray taking that away from her, it's not hard to see why that made her upset. Because he took the process, his precious process, which is so important to him, he took that away from her and just handed her the finished product.
Right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, but as you were saying, Adam, what I was just going to say is I did also really like the little montage scene that we have down here of Ray in his isolation, in his introverted self, doing the process of his writing, of the whole little bunny hop, of thinking, of the jumping, of the wagging of his shaking his little tush at for a little tail. I thought that was kind of adorable. And I could also see why having another person in the room might make this process a little bit difficult, because if I was Deborah, my first instinct would be to tear him a new one for just roasting him like that.
Yeah. But the next morning, Deborah and the kids are in the kitchen. Ray comes in. Deborah's like, what were you doing last night? You didn't come to bed until like 4:30. And he hands Deborah the finished story. And her reaction is just that of, oh, you did the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
why not?
He's like, yep, you're welcome. And then he's on top of the world and he strolls out. And Deborah's flipping through it and she sees that Ray has named the bunny. So ultimately he went with the bunny, Winky. And Winky, oh, he named the bunny Winky. I thought her reading of that was funny.
I think Winky's a fine name for, like, I know this is a disagreement. This might be a hot take, but it's my podcast. Winky's a fine name for a children's book bunny. Yeah, I probably would have named it Blinky or something for the alliteration of Blinky the bunny. But you know what? It's fine. It's cute. It's cuddly. It's enjoyable. I like Winky. Clive sucks. Clive's a terrible name for an animal. I'm gonna go on record for that as well.
It just sounds so conniving.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Mike. I think of the two names, I think it's pretty easy to see Winky is the superior one.
Winky's the better name. Like,
I think
how
there's
is that
something
even a debate?
subversive about naming it Clive. I can sort of see if that, is it's sort of like, in a lot of things have, outlandish things have very droll or run-of-the-mill names. So I feel like, there's that argument. I would prefer to have Winky in my bunny story. So, yeah, I think we're all in agreement here.
Okay, so we're all Winky supporters.
But we cut to Deborah in the living room later. Ray comes in. He says that he talked to Jerry Ashley, his publisher friend, because, he's so excited about his finished version of the book. And Deborah says, well, it's not quite done. Your version wasn't quite there yet. So she hands him her version. She made some edits. She made it rhyme. And she named the bunny Clive. Ray finds the rhyming a little cutesy. And then when he finds out it's Clive, he says, where are you from? Piccadilly? And then proceeds to speak in the worst British accent ever captured in recorded media.
I don't think you could even consider that a British accent. I really don't think that's so
Later
far away
on,
from
it
British
sounds
accent.
almost Indian. So I don't even know how.
Oh yeah, actually,
I don't know.
it's rough.
Here, I wanna talk through this scene a little bit because I think it's really interesting. Because Ray is now all on board with this idea now that it is solely his, basically. He kind of fully took over the story, got really excited about it, and now he's going to his publisher. And then Deborah kind of comes in making edits, maybe because she didn't like some of Ray's choices, but I think it also comes from a place of he hurt her and she wants him to understand how she feels by doing the same thing to him. And it just seems that there's a good chunk of not good communicating, which I feel like it shouldn't be surprising.
Yeah.
But here
I
we are.
definitely see that for sure. Deborah says that, and, in sort of the summation of that, Deborah says she asked him to do it with her, not to do it. And then they settle on this competition of let's read both versions of the story to Allie and see which one she likes best. So we cut to Ray reading his version.
And Ray just goes, all right, wake her
Oh,
up.
yeah.
He's on the warpath.
But they do it another night. And we cut to Ray reading Winky to Allie, and he asks her how it was. She says it was good, and Ray asks which one she liked better. And Allie says Winky because he was funny, and Ray is thrilled. And we cut to Ray coming downstairs. Deborah's folding the laundry. She says, well, is there a decision? Ray says yes, and he pauses, and you can see that Ray is trying to do what he thinks the right thing to do in this situation is. And he says, she picked yours. And I guess if the writers were looking more superficially at this conflict, that could have been the end of it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say on a lesser show that would have been the fate to Black Line.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really they did subvert my expectations with the following events that occurred after this line, because that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And you know what? I do appreciate Raymond for writing wise, kind of always going that extra step, taking us one little piece past the generic endings that we see so often in other shows.
Yeah, because Deborah pauses for a second and then says, why are you lying to me? And reveals that she listened outside of Allie's door while Ray was telling her the story and really selling it to Allie. And she says Ray robbed her of the opportunity to lose with dignity. And she, the whole point was that she tried to do something to feel better about herself and ended up making Ray feel better about himself. Ray says it was just Deborah's idea, or it was Deborah's idea, and all he did was make it work, that Deborah's the idea person, and Deborah is not happy about that, but Ray says that sometimes he's the idea person. I think the kids should eat. You know how to feed them. I think they shouldn't be naked. You know what to do there, too. If it was up to me, they'd be eating cereal every day and wearing the boxes.
Which is a great line.
Funny line, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun line.
But Ray says, he sort of comes around and says, she did do something creative, and, her completing her version of the book is great, and he ruined it for her by making it into a competition. He says, you could have done this on your own. And then he says, I think I remember asking you not to include me 5 days ago, which is true. And Deborah agrees. She says, that's true. I guess if I want to get something accomplished, I should just stay away from you, which is, honestly, the valid takeaway from this. Deborah laughs at the idea of, that she ever asked for his help. And she did a good job. She feels like, she did do a good job. She wrote a good story. She should like it and feel good about it. Ray says, you should, it's good. And I thought her read of, yeah, but who cares what you think, was really funny.
Like she's kind of starting to, talk herself out of her funk.
Yeah.
While kind of dismissing what Ray's saying at this point, which
she
just,
definitely has
it was just done very well.
Mm-hmm. She definitely has like a realization vibe going on here. And she's like, Allie probably only liked it because it was the last one she heard, and she makes fun of Ray for overselling his version, hopping around. I thought Ray's closing line of this scene of, Winky doesn't hop like a drunk. Was pretty funny.
It was. That was a fun little line too.
Absolutely.
So that's sort of the resolution of the conflict.
Yeah.
Of Deborah essentially realizing if I want to do something creative, I should just do it and not care what people say. I should do it in the way that's fulfilling for me, which is sort of could be the tagline of this show, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah. I thought that I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. I think that is the overall moral. It did also come across as like, Ray ruins everything. I'm not going to involve him in this kind of stuff in the future, which is also a true conclusion to make. So, yeah.
That's the underlying thesis of this show is that Ray, everything Ray touches turns to shit. Which we've yet, I mean, maybe not everything. Maybe that's a little.
I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, you know.
And we'll see when we hit the barometer. But we go to our hot close. Deborah's in the kitchen. Ray comes in doing his British accent, and this is really where it started to sound Indian for me. Deborah says that's not an accent, Ray. It's a speech impediment.
It's funny.
And then Robert bursts in and tells him that Frank is on the way over with his favorite portrait. And he Frank bursts in. They beg him not to show them, thinking that the portrait is one of his nudes of Marie, when actually it is a portrait of El Cordobés.
Oh, no. Is this what you did? Is this the one where you went
the greatest bullfighter of all time?
Oh, no.
So here's a little background music for it. So Manuel Benitez Perez was born 4 May 1936. He's more commonly known as El Cordobés, or the Cordovan. Cordova is a city in Spain. He's a Spanish bullfighter, matador, and actor active in the 1960s who brought an unorthodox acrobatic and theatrical style to bullfighting. His story was the basis for the 1987 concept album and 1991 musical Matador. The concept album starred Tom Jones, who we're listening to right now, and the musical starred John Barrowman, who would go on to be in Doctor Who. This song, A Boy From Nowhere, was Tom Jones's first UK top 10 hit in 15 years.
Wow,
and that came
Tom.
From this concept album. The musical folded after 3 months, both due to poor reviews. Even though the Wikipedia page says they were positive, but everyone I could find suggested that you should leave during the intermission, which doesn't seem positive to me.
No, that's not. That's not.
And this is interesting, there was a heavy drop in tourism in London due to the Gulf War. So people just weren't going to the theater. So, Matador failed. El Cordobés he sort of retired from bullfighting after an incident in 1983 when the bull, somebody ran into the ring and the bull murdered that person. So that, I guess, sort of scarred him, and he's been living in seclusion ever since.
And then he got painted by Frank Barone on Everybody Loves Raymond.
At some point, yeah, he got painted by Frank Barone.
Adam,
yeah.
I'm very proud of you. That was going into way too much detail, and I'm very proud of you for doing so.
Absolutely, so am I.
Is he still alive?
Just wanted you to hear the song. He is still alive, but he's living in seclusion. His last public appearance was in 2016.
Okay.
He did a guest spot at someone else's bullfight. I don't know. I didn't really.
Can we make him his next public appearance be on Everybody Loves Raymond?
We should have had this conversation before recording this episode because both El Cordobés and Jackie Collins I find unlikely to be coming up again in a future episode. But yeah,
that's why I reached out and I actually got him in the waiting room on this call right now. Everybody, welcome El Cordobés. No, I'm kidding. He's not. He's not actually.
Wow. How?
Imagine if we had held him in the waiting room for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll bring you on at the end.
Yeah.
So that's El Cordobés. But he shows them that portrait, and then they're like, oh, that's very good. It actually is a pretty good painting for my untrained eye.
Yeah,
but
no.
then they're like, oh, nice,
Well,
Frank.
Alex
and then
is our
oh yeah, Shades of
art
Ray.
expert.
Shades of Ray.
Time for Shades of Ray.
What did you think?
I thought it was pretty good. I didn't get a good look at it because it was only up for a couple seconds, and like an idiot, I didn't pause it. But from what I saw, it seems like it's a very believable portrait from someone who was never formally trained, but still has. Wait for me to finish. But still has spatial intelligence.
Wow.
Is able to understand and break down shapes and translate them. But it's a pretty simple piece.
This is a very backhanded review, I feel like.
What do you want me to say?
Good art reviews should be.
Frank's not an artist.
It's probably accurate.
Yeah.
Formally, he is an artist because he makes art and he tries hard, and it's respect. And I'm not a goody two shoes high class art critic. I'm nice. I swear.
Well, and reserve your final judgment. The nude of Marie has got to be somewhere. I think Mike. You've been working on
you
hunting
bought it,
that
right?
down, haven't you? You went to the auction.
I have bought 7 nude paintings of Marie Barone. I'm not sure which of them, if any of them, have been used in this show, or if they were just Rule 34. But regardless, they exist in my possession.
Okay. I can't believe that, Sotheby's, we had some goodwill with them after we sold the Barone Zone, but then when you came in and you were like, more, please get more. I'm surprised that they haven't severed any ties with you, but I guess, things are still going well. You got the money.
Yeah, exactly. I got stuff to burn. I put away the settlement money specifically for that venture. So,
But yeah, so Frank says, and here's one of your mother, and then they all scream and duck, and I thought that was a good note to end the episode.
That was very cool.
A really nice payoff.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, let's turn to our classic barometer. It is the scale from 1 to 10 on which we rate Ray's performance as a husband, son, brother, author, father. 1 being the bad man of television, Walter White, Don Draper, and 10 being the great dads of all time, Danny Tanner and Uncle Phil. For me, I find Ray's performance in this episode, like we talked about at the beginning, to be kind of in a gray area. I think
nice.
Fundamentally, the it's the resolution that they arrive to at the end sort of sums up what happened in a very convenient way that the show doesn't always do, which is that Ray shouldn't have made it about him. He shouldn't have made it a competition, and Deborah shouldn't have asked for his help in the first place, really. His conduct is not too bad here. Like, he doesn't go scorched earth on her. I'm just going to say 5.5. I mean, no, you know what? Let's call it 6 because it's a little better than medium. I mean, in the end, Deborah has a book that she likes. She got some help with it, but in the end, it's her creative product. So I guess if that's the goal, then great. Mike, what is your overall impression?
Yeah, I'm very much in the same zone as you. I'm also thinking Ray wasn't terrible. In fact, he makes a lot of pretty sweet gestures throughout all of this. Maybe not executed in the best possible way. I think that I don't think that he intended for him writing the book to be him taking over the project, even though that is what happened. But I think he was trying to make a sweet gesture. I know Deborah didn't love it, but I did think that the last gesture of, lying to make Deborah feel better about herself was not a bad thing to do. I think that was a good lie. He wasn't perfect. There are some gray areas, but he did do a bunch right. I'm also going to put it in the same zone as you. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna say 5.5. I'm gonna say 5.5 for Ray this episode. And Alex, how about your thoughts? What did you think of him this episode?
Cool. I thought he was very relatable today for things that I previously touched on about being a writer at work, not wanting to do so at home as well, because, it can be very creatively taxing. And I did appreciate the gestures made. I do sincerely believe that when Ray took that book after Deborah left in frustration and went to go work on it, I believe his initial intentions were to kind of sort it out, reorganize it, kind of show her that she has a proof of concept here. You just have to put it together like a puzzle. But eventually kind of lost sight of that, got ideas, and then, as a writer would, gets excited about it, and then he finds his groove, and before you know it, he's done with it, and then gives that to Deborah, kind of not seeing the subtext of what she's wanting, where it's like she wants to accomplish this, and she wants Ray to help, not do it for her, as we kind of discussed. I thought Ray's intentions, for the most part, were very good. I thought he was a whiny little bastard, but that's nothing unusual. I'm comfortable also sitting at a 5.5.
Okay.
Mike?
So that will put us this episode at a 5.7 for Ray. That's not bad.
That's middle of the road.
That's not bad. That feels within the Ray area, that feels feels
absolutely
good. So, yeah.
Yeah. Not bad, Ray. Not bad at all. What did I want to say? Oh, yeah, that's the end of our show. So 5.7.
Ended there.
Tune in next week when we'll be talking about season 2, episode 9. I don't know what it's called yet, but we'll be talking about that one, going scene by scene, and of course, rating Ray's performance in that one as well. Barone Zone on Instagram and Facebook, postfund.org/donate for the Baroness Zonus.
We have merchandise.
We have merchandise. This is exciting.
We got merch?
Yeah, it's the holiday season.
You've been in this conversation
for months now, Mike.
Have I? I totally forgot. Okay, well.
Yes, we have merchandise. Buy it for your ELELR obsessed friends and loved ones for the holiday season. Yep. I'm going to be buying it for all the people that I love, myself.
Shop.postfund.org will be your home for shirts, and we got stickers, we got
Barone bottoms.
We got the Barone bottoms.
I do remember these now that I'm looking at them. Yes, I do. Yep. These are great. You
can get our friend Robert, Alex's design of Robert on your bottoms. So it's worth the cost if you ask me. I mean, go strut through the grocery store in those things and see, if people don't just start handing you their carts and saying, "Here, you deserve this." Is that what people would do?
Yes, if you're fashionable, that's what happens.
That's what's been my experiences. I'm pretty fashionable. I'll go down to like Uncle Giuseppe's Italian market and people will just hand me cannoli.
Holy cannoli.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end of the episode.
Shop.postfund.org and forums.postfund.org for your remembrances and Judge Deborah's. I do want to point out one thing. New challenge alert. This episode, at some point in this episode, you will cross the 48-hour mark of listening to Everybody Loves Raymond. We now have 2 full days of content available in the free feed, and then we've got, I guess if you were to start, about 2 more hours on the Baroness Zonus. So, hey, laying it down right now as we did with 24, if you take a screenshot of you listening to our first episode at midnight, and then 2 days later at midnight, take a screenshot of you about halfway or 3/4 through this episode. That's the Everybody Loves Raymond 48-hour challenge. we will send you. We actually can. We could send somebody something for doing this. We could send somebody a sticker or a hat.
Well, yeah, but it's like the easiest thing in the world to fake.
Maybe. But who would care that much?
I wouldn't.
I was gonna say that, like, I'm okay with doing it because we have a listener that has enough effort in their life to fake it. Cut this out, obviously, but like, yeah, I'm totally okay with that.
I would say let's lay that down. What do we have in the store? What's the cheapest thing? The Robert sticker?
I think Eat
the
Ray
logo
Love
sticker.
is another
we've
logo
got the
that we
Ray
have.
Love sticker.
Yep.
Okay, we'll send you, if you do the challenge, we will send you a free sticker. And
of your choice.
Of your choice, sure. So yeah, that's the challenge. That's the prize. I don't think there's anything else to add, so I'll throw it over to Mike for our classic sign-off.
All right, well, that's the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. And so there's only one last thing to say, and that is that everybody
loves
Raymond, and we
love you.